Hello, welcome to. I think I just scared my cat. Welcome to Cheap Graphic Novels. My name is Taylor of Taylor Talks Comics. Appreciate you joining me. It's a heck of a day. My beard is especially disheveled today. I need to probably trim that up a little bit. All right. So, got a lot of great comic books to talk about today. Thank you for joining me. If you are in the chat, I'll let a couple people trickle in here. Let me know if you're here. Say hello. Drop a line. Just a lot of people. Okay. So, yes, this is Cheap Graphic Novels. Aloha. Hello, Sandwichism. Maybe coming from Hawaii. Chatting with us from Hawaii. Yes, this is Cheap Graphic Novels. My name's Taylor. We do a weekly show every King Judge. Hello. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. We do a weekly show where we go over all the comic books and graphic novels that we will have on sale the following week. So today's books that we're talking about will be on sale Monday evening. And make sure you follow us on social media at CGN on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. You just search Cheap Graphic Novels. Every Monday evening, Max, the guy that runs the show over at CGN, shoots me a text, and I already have the image and everything ready to go. He shoots me a text that says books are ready to go on sale, and then I make the post on social media to let you guys know what time it is that you guys can buy your comics and graphic novels. Sorry, my beard is really bugging me today. I need to trim it up. It's all disheveled, but that's not important. So yes, I'm Taylor. I run the social media accounts for Cheap Graphic Novels, and I also do the weekly newsletter. Make sure you subscribe to that if you haven't already. I'd like to hear some feedback on the weekly newsletter too. If you're in the chat and you've been reading the newsletter, let me know if you've been enjoying that, if there's anything you'd like to see in the newsletter, anything different maybe you'd like to see. But yeah, so I've been writing that as well. Make sure you subscribe to that. I'll show you where to do that here once I share my screen. And then, a few days ago, hello, Juan. Juan, my man, he just sent me a comic book the other day, which I had to thank you on air for. It was such a generous gift. I'm so stoked to get that in there, and I can't wait to read it. It's on my to read pile. I haven't read it yet. And then on my own personal YouTube channel on Taylor Talks Comics, I'm going to show off. Actually, after the show, I think I'm going to film my haul for the month. So I will show off that book a little bit more in detail. But thank you again for Juan. I wanted to thank you on air. But yeah, so we have weekly newsletter, weekly show on CGN Live. 2 days ago, I did the live show for the May pre-order catalog. So if you go to the live tab on YouTube, on the very channel you're watching right now, make sure you just go to the live tab, and then you can see the most recent episode was that May pre-order catalog episode. I did have to cut that one a little short towards the end. It was we a little peek behind the curtain. We have some remodeling happening at our house, and the architect showed up at my house. That's why I had to do it at 11 a.m. too. I had to do that episode a little early, but then he shows up at my house 45 minutes earlier than he said he was going to be here. So I had to rush through the end. So if you're there with me at the end, that's why I was like, oh yeah, follow us on Twitter. See you later. Oh, nice. My pleasure. Yes. Thank you so much, Juan. That was such a nice gift. So yeah, let's hop to it. Next week's books I'm really, really excited about. I'm already working on next week's newsletter. I've gone through these pretty in depth. Let me share my screen here. And it's actually the least Marvel heavy newsletter I've done so far. So in the newsletter, if you're not already following us or subscribed, let me show you that. All right, so this is the front page of cheapgraphicnovels.com. And if you scroll down to the bottom here, bottom right, you type in your email address and subscribe that way. There will be a confirmation email that you'll have to confirm that you did subscribe. That might pop up in your spam folder. I think it's been fixed now, but it might pop up in your spam folder. Just check that to be sure. You will want to make sure you get that confirmation email to ensure you get the newsletter. But the newsletter, so every newsletter I do my top 5 picks of the week of things, of the big books that are coming out, and then I do my special Taylor Talks Comics pick of the week, which is more of an under the radar book from like a smaller publisher. So 6 picks, I guess, of the week. And then what I'm working on now, the newsletter for next week, I think I only have 1 Marvel book in there, which typically in the last few weeks it's been there's been like 3 or 4 Marvel books in those top 6. So an interesting week. I love Marvel comics, but I also love talking about other publishers. So it's going to give me the chance to do that because next week's got a lot of good stuff coming out. Looks like we have 44 books to show off today. If you're in the chat, drop a line. I always like to ask you, what comic books have you been reading lately? And what comic books have you bought lately? Which ones are you excited to buy that are coming out soon? Those kinds of things. And I can answer any CGN related questions for you, with the exception of specific order questions. I'm in the Midwest, actually. I'm not all the way. The CGN warehouse is in California. So I'm not there on a daily basis. So I can't find out where your order is or anything like that. But if you have a question of like what we have in stock, when certain books come out, the price of certain books, those kinds of questions, I could definitely answer those for you. So drop those in the chat as well. Anything you have in that regard. So we have 1 Marvel Omnibus to show off. Let me make sure my screen is showing okay. All right, looks good. And is Thunderbolts Omnibus Volume 3. We have 2 different cover options here. Let's click on the DM. And I always like to remind you guys, if you are new to the Omnibus game, the DM exclusive variant cover, that just means it's exclusive to the direct market. That's what DM stands for. And the direct market is just comic book shops. So CGN, your local comic book shops, those kinds of things are the only people that can sell these DM covers. And then the standard edition cover will be available everywhere, which includes like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and those kinds of things. So at CGN, we always carry both options for you. And like I said, this first one is the Thunderbolts Omnibus. This DM cover is done by Grumet. And this carries a price tag of $74.99. Also, like to point out, too, it says out of stock right here. We had some questions about this on social media. I think some people have been have been looking at the books like a day earlier, maybe, and it says out of stock, so then they assume it's out of stock. Everybody bought it. The books always say out of stock. There's like an in-between phase. So there's like the pre-order phase, and then at a certain point, I think a couple weeks before the books are coming out, Max cuts off the pre-orders, and then they'll say out of stock until the day they're on sale. So like I said earlier in my diatribe at the beginning, the moment I send that post up on social media that says the books are on sale for Monday evenings, go get them. This will be changed to add to cart. So it's just out of stock right now, but don't fret. Monday evening they'll be available. So this is the 3rd volume of Thunderbolts Omnibus. They've been pumping these out. I think we have another Thunderbolts Omnibus that was up for pre-order as well. And this includes Thunderbolts 64 through 75, 100 through 109, Avengers and Thunderbolts 1 through 6, New Thunderbolts 1 through 18, and then Thunderbolts presents Zemo, Born Better 1 through 4. So I think what happened here, and I haven't read a lot of Thunderbolts comics, so someone correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. So let me know if you're like a Thunderbolts expert, because I haven't read a lot of Thunderbolts comics, but you see here, it says 64 through 75, and then jumps all the way to 100. If my math's correct, it looks like the Avengers Thunderbolts 1 through 6 and New Thunderbolts 1 through 18 fill in that 25 issue gap between 75 and 100. I think some funny renumbering business happened there. I don't think you're actually missing any issues if you're ordering this. Right here, King Judge. Yeah, I sometimes think the same thing. I think it should be worded differently. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of, I think King Judge here is probably referring to the out of stock button on there. I think it's just a matter of options for buttons, I guess. I don't know what I don't know how we would word that other than out of stock, like not ready to be ordered yet. I don't know. I agree. It is kind of confusing on the face, but that's why I try to try to inform you guys. I am on these things on social media and on YouTube to let you guys know how that goes. I think that's the idea of me kind of letting everybody know how the website works and stuff. And I want to do some separate videos on the YouTube channel that are not live, that are just evergreen, kind of living on there, about things like that, about certain things you could do on the website, because there are some cool options besides just like, like the fact that this is out of stock. But like the wish list option is a really cool feature that we have. Which, real quickly, if you don't know, if you put any book in your wish list, like let me see here. Oh yeah, right here. Next to out of stock, it says wish list. If you put a heart on that, well, I'm not signed in right now, but if you're signed in and you put a heart on it, it'll add that book to your wish list. So the moment that book is in stock, you'll get an email. Like the second that the book comes in stock, you'll get an email about it. So that works one of two ways. If you have a book that's coming out soon that you don't really have the opportunity to follow day-to-day changes of dates and release dates and whatnot, or you just want to make sure you don't miss out on it, you can add that to it. So books that are coming out soon, but also older books. So if there's an older title that has gone out of print that you're wanting to pick up and you don't want to miss out when it comes back into print or back in stock, you'll want to add that to your wish list too, because you'll get those. And I mean, it's kind of especially with all the multiple distributors and whatnot, Max does a really great job, of the guy that runs CGN, of making sure he has access to books through all the distributors when they're back in print or back in stock. So if he finds one distributor has all of a sudden a stack of this out of print book, out of nowhere, that's been out of print for a long time, he'll scoop them up and then throw them up on the website. And then if you have this on your wish list, you'll get the email notification letting you know that it's back in stock. So make sure you're using the wish list option too, because it's really, really handy. Coming soon should be an option instead of pre-order as stock. Oh, coming soon. Okay, that would be a different way of wording it. Maybe I'll talk to Max about that. We'll see how he feels about having that, because that would be okay. Coming soon would that makes sense. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. But the in between phase of pre-order and in stock. That way, there's, excuse me, that would put a difference too, because when the books actually do go truly out of stock, yeah, I'll talk to Max about that. See if there's anything we can do. The other Thunderbolts option here is also done by Grummet. And this is the cover you see here. Like I said, this is a standard edition. Both of these will be available Monday evening, May 1st, and they're both $74.99. It's $50 off the cover price. Then we have a compendium from DC Comics. This is the Sandman Mystery Theater compendium, Volume 1. So there should be 2 volumes of this that would complete the entirety of the run. And this includes issues 1 through 36 and the Sandman Mystery Theater Annual number 1. So it's a spinoff of the Sandman series, like the Neil Gaiman one. Neil Gaiman doesn't write anything in this, though. It's a spinoff that has it features the original Sandman, and it's more of like a crime noir comic book that takes place back in like the golden age era of comics. And it's done by Matt Wagner, Stephen T. Siegel are the writers, and then Guy Davis, John Watkiss, R.G. Taylor, and others are listed as the artists. I've never read this, but I'm super stoked about this because I do want to read this. The idea of the crime noir in golden age era Sandman sounds super intriguing to me. And I've always wanted to read more of that. I love golden and silver age comics. So anytime you see a character, like a modernization of one of those characters, but done in that same time period, it's really interesting to me. Bought a good amount of Image Comics during the 50% off deal a couple days ago. That sounds awesome. What books did you pick up, Undecided Toy Store? I'd like to know. One thing I do, while you're letting me know, one thing I do want to do too is have some more interactive audience type posts on the social media platforms. So I haven't made a post about it yet, but I will. But you can go ahead and start using the hashtag CGN haul. And I want to start sharing people's hauls from CGN on our social media. I think that'd be really cool to do. Yeah, I love that option of adding something to your wish list and getting notified being available. Yes, I think it's one of the coolest things that CGN offers that the other competitor websites don't offer in the same format. I think they have wish list options, but I don't think they're as immediate. Like when I have books on my wish list for CGN, even before I started doing work for them, I would notice that email would come in like immediately. Before people started sharing on some like the Facebook groups and stuff I'm in, that like certain books are in stock. I think like the big one I remember was like right when I started working with CGN, right before it, because Max hadn't told me about it yet. He normally tells me these things, but was the Legion of Superheroes Volume 1 of the 5 years later omnibus. Like I saw that came up in my wish list notification. I got the email before people started sharing it in Facebook groups and whatnot. So that's when I noticed like how immediate it was. Rogue Sun, Dead Lucky, Radiant Red, Chrononauts 1 and 2. Such a great haul and cheap price. Oh, so you're into the Radiant Black universe kind of thing, which I think those first 3 take place in the Radiant Black universe. So with Radiant Black, I've read the first trade paperback, and I've been kind of waiting for like deluxe edition hardcovers, but there's been no announcement of this. I figured this would have been an obvious thing, but all these spin-offs and stuff, like, it has me intrigued. I love Kyle Higgins' Power Rangers series, so that's what kind of put me on to Radiant Black. But I need to catch up, because now it's getting to the point where there's so many spin-offs. I need to figure out reading orders and whatnot. What of the spin-offs have you enjoyed the most? Undecided. Besides just Radiant Black. Oh, and King Judge likes your pickup too. All right, so let's get back to the books here. Up next is a big one. I'm so stoked for this one. Department of Truth, The Complete Conspiracy Deluxe Edition, Volume 1 hardcover. So, with a lot of series, my personal buying habits, I'll buy like maybe the first trade paperback and try it out, especially the Image ones that I think maybe might get a deluxe edition one day. It doesn't always happen, unfortunately, but if I really like that first trade paperback, I'll wait for the deluxe editions. Like I did that with Gideon Falls. I bought that first trade paperback and I absolutely loved it, and then waited for the deluxes to finish it. Same thing with Department of Truth. I bought that first trade paperback and I absolutely loved it. Like it was one of the best things I read in a number of years, and I've been just oh, hold on. Sorry, I got a text. I had to answer real fast. It deals with, if you haven't read Department of Truth, it's by James Tynion, and most of the art is by Martin Simmons. And Martin Simmons has this really cool, like Bill Sienkiewicz type esque artwork that I like a lot. Okay. And James Tynion he's such a great writer. But the idea of Department of Truth is that all conspiracy theories are true. So you think like the JFK assassination, the flat Earth theory, Bigfoot, Mothman, are some of the ones listed here. Imagine that they're all true, that they all came true, but then there's this secret organization, like more secret than the CIA or anything, and it's called the Department of Truth, and they're in charge of controlling these and controlling what the information the public receives about them, I guess. So if you're into conspiracy theories and whatnot, this is a really deep book that, like, I can tell James Tynion, he's probably like that guy in the There's Always Sunny gif that you see with all the strings and the maps and stuff. I imagine that's what his house looks like when he's planning out this comic book, because it's so intense and deep and well thought out. But this is the first deluxe edition hardcover. This includes the first 17 issues. And this will be $34.99, 30% off. It'll be on sale next Monday. And that's one I'm really, really excited about. Then we have Hack Slash Deluxe Edition Volume 3 hardcover. These have been slowly coming out. I think the first couple got reprinted recently. This is the series from Tim Seeley. In almost every slasher movie, there's one girl who makes it all the way to the end. She's a survivor, the final girl. Meet Cassie Hack, the lone survivor of an attack by vicious slasher known as the Lunch Lady. So this includes issues 18 through 34 and the Entry Wound one-shot. This is a series I've been wanting to read too. It seems like my kind of thing. It's like 80s horror slasher movies kind of thing, but in maybe a fun kind of comic that you don't have to think too much about. Those are always good ones. So that'll be $34.99 on sale next Monday. We have Art of the Horizon Forbidden West hardcover. This will be $34.99 as well, and also due out next Monday. This is from Dark Horse Comics. It includes all the concept art and creator commentary of the video game, right? That's a video game? Horizon Forbidden? I'm pretty sure it's a video game. But it's like an art book. It's $34.99. We have Superman, the 85th anniversary collection trade paperback. So I believe this was originally released in hardcover. Possibly. This looks to be a thick trade paperback. Cover price is $49.99. But if you shop with CGN, you can get it for $29.99 on Monday evening. And it includes like a greatest hits, if you will, of the Man of Steel, including Action Comics Volume 1, issues 1 and 2. A bunch of that. Let me see here. Superman Volume 1. So a bunch of Golden and Silver Age stuff, it looks like. And then we have Man of Steel number 1 by John Byrne, Superman Confidential, and the Superman Rebirth number 1. So it's got things all the way dating back to Golden Age through present day. So if you're a huge Superman fan, you just want a collection of some of his greatest hits, there you go. All right. So same, I came from Kyle Higgins and Ryan Parrott's Power Rangers. Yeah, that's a series I need to catch up on. I think I read the first 3 deluxe edition hardcovers, and I've fallen behind. So I need to pick up on those and pick up some of those deluxes to catch up. Because I know I've heard my friend Connor, who joins us in the chat sometimes, he's a huge fan of the Power Ranger series. And I think he has come to the conclusion that he likes the Ryan Parrott era better than Kyle Higgins even. And he liked the Kyle Higgins stuff. He just thinks Ryan Parrott's is so much better. I read Kyle Higgins' Ultraman at Marvel, was fun. Not as familiar with Ultraman as I am with Power Rangers. Yeah, Kyle Higgins had this thing where he was like the tokusatsu guy. Like he was doing all kinds of any sort of tokusatsu character, like Power Rangers, Ultraman, even Darkhawk. Like he was like running with all these series. And then it looked like Radiant Black was going to become his own kind of Power Ranger series. But from what I've heard, it's more the character designs look kind of Power Rangers-esque, but it's more like straight superheroes. I don't know, but that's what I've heard. I really want that Department of Truth hardcover. Yeah, I agree, Juan. And it's like I said, I read the first 6 issues on that first trade paperback, and it was so good. I just put it down, and I was like, I'm just gonna wait for the deluxe hardcover because Martin Simmons' artwork too is just like it's amazing. Like I love Bill Sienkiewicz, and when I say it's like Bill Sienkiewicz artwork, I'm saying like the primo stuff that you can recognize Bill Sienkiewicz from, where he's like mixed media, painting, that kind of thing. Like not his early era stuff. Sorry, his later era stuff where he like really put his name on the map. Like that's the kind of style that Martin Simmons is trying to emulate, I guess. And he does it really well. Like it doesn't look like he's just copying Sienkiewicz. Next, we have an epic collection. This is Avengers West Coast, California Screaming. So this is a new Avengers West Coast epic collection. If that's one of the lines that you're collecting. I believe this might be volume 6, if I remember correctly. I can look that up if someone wants to know. But this includes issues 65 through 82, plus annual number 6. It's up by Roy Thomas and art by Paul Ryan. Legends of the DC Universe by Carmine Infantino, who was one of the great artists from like the Silver Age of DC and Silver and Bronze Age, I suppose. But Infantino, so that's one thing I've been getting into a lot too is the Silver Age of DC. I love Silver Age Marvel. I've talked about that on here before quite a bit. But Silver Age DC is something I've been really dabbling in the last couple of years. And Infantino is like, I mean, the best artist of DC Comics of that era for sure, in my opinion. I'd put him up there with Ditko and Kirby. Like, if there's like the 3 top artists of the Silver Age in comics, I put Ditko, Kirby, Ditko, and then Infantino in that order. But he did a lot of his long series he did was Adam Strange, and then the Flash was the one that he did for a really long time with John Broome on writing. And then so this book includes a lot of his greatest hits of comics that he worked on. Let me see if there's anything in here that I'm not super familiar with. The Flash. A few issues of Batman that he did. House of Mystery 296. So that's going to be a later Bronze Age era Infantino. So that'll be interesting to read too. And then Secret Origin 17 and Danger Trail 1 through 4. What is Danger Trail? I'm not familiar with that series. While I'm looking this up, anybody in chat familiar with Carmine Infantino's Danger Trail? Let's see. Trying to find a website that's not like eBay. All right, let me just look up on this. Because this is 1993. Is that right? Infantino was doing interiors on comics and as late as 1993. Let's see. I always love when I find new comics that I've never heard of. Always a treat. Yeah, it says by Carmine Infantino and Paul Galassi. So I wonder if Paul Galassi does some of the interiors, or maybe he inks them. The covers look really awesome. I'd share this with you, but it's another website. Okay, so Claves, that's cool. I always like when these greatest hits series include like a mini series in its entirety, because that series right there, Danger Trail 1 through 4, will probably never be collected in anything else, especially if it's a standalone. It doesn't look like it doesn't appear to include any characters that would be like it doesn't have like Superman in it, where it would maybe be put into a Superman collection. So this Carmine Infantino hardcover might be the only place to get that. That kind of piques my interest about this. Interesting. 4 issues. So that'll be $29.99. $29.99 if you order through CGN on Monday. Up next, this is a big one. Murky World hardcover by Richard Corbin. So Dark Horse announced last year that they'll be doing a lot of the old Richard Corbin comic books reprinted. They're doing like a Richard Corbin library, if you will, kind of like what they did with like Mobius. They have a Mobius library. And then like things like what's that publisher called? Humanoids. Humanoids has like the Jodorowsky library. So Dark Horse is doing a Richard Corbin library, and this is the first release of it, and this is the Murky World series that Corbin did. But the great thing is that they're being lovingly restored by Jose Villarrubia, and Jose Villarrubia, he did the restoration and recoloring for the most recent Absolute Swamp Thing. So if you have the Absolute Swamp Thing book by Bernie Wrightson, and this is going to be kind of a weird share because this is not Richard Corbin artwork, but if you're familiar with like the Alan Moore Swamp Thing Absolutes, those were like kind of controversial because they were like totally recolored by Steve Oliff to where like the coloring didn't match at all what the originals were like. Well, Jose Villarrubia is very against that idea. So when he recolored this, so I'm showing you this. This is Wrightson artwork, not Corbin, but we're just looking at the coloring, I guess. It was like lovingly restored to where Jose Villarrubia wanted it to be exactly as close to the original comics as possible. So it was like it's a work of love from him because he loves Bertie Wrightson artwork and he loves Richard Corbin. So the fact that he was the colorist on the restoration of this Richard Corbin library for Dark Horse. Am I still live? What's going on here? Hold on a second. I think I'm losing someone. My second screen shut down. I'll just keep talking. Hopefully you can hear me. But I'm still live. Okay. So Jose Villarrubia, when I heard that he was on the project for these Richard Corbin comics, it made me want them that much more, because I love the idea of these comics being restored to look more exactly like the originals as possible, and as close to, because with a lot of these older comics, if they were printed on newsprint back then, the colorists kind of took that into account, knowing that the newsprint paper stock was going to soak in the colors a little bit differently. So you see a lot of times with like the Marvel restoration of their comics, they don't always take that into account, or they just have a different idea of how to restore those. So the coloring will look a little bit different. Like the colors will look maybe too bright on some regards. But I like them taking into account, like I want it to look exactly like it did on newsprint, because that's how it was originally printed. That's my favorite kind of restoration, if that makes any sense. So we have some questions here. Do you know if the Aliens comics are worth getting into? I'm pretty tempted. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I love the Aliens comics. I showed these off on an earlier episode, but I don't know. I don't want to deter you, because the ones I have are the Dark Horse versions. But they are absolutely. If you like the Aliens movies at all, then I would say you absolutely want to buy them. But they're, to me, some of the best horror comics I've ever read. I really, really like them, and like the series are hit or miss, because for the most part, most of the Alien series, it's not like one long ongoing story. It'll be like mini series here and there of different creators and whatnot. So you get kind of a mixed bag, if you will, of certain creators. But I don't know that there's been any Alien series that I've read that was just like bad. Like they range from like great to good, in my opinion. And the great ones are like just, I don't know. So like I said, some of my favorite horror comics. Highlights would be the original series for sure. So that would be in that Volume 1 Omnibus or the recent Marvel Epic Collection. And then my all-time favorite Alien story was in Dead Orbit, which by James Stokoe. And that came out in Volume 4 of the Aliens Omnibuses. Let me pick that up, actually. Not that I feel like you're going to probably still go out and buy a Volume 4 out of nowhere. But you could, actually, because, like I said, these are not one long ongoing story. So if you bought Volume 4 of the Aliens Omnibus, it would look weird because you had a Volume 4 on your shelf, but the stories itself, you won't be lost or anything. But this is the Dark Horse release, but same artwork and whatnot. But James Stokoe is like such an amazing artist. So any excuse I have to show off this book, I will absolutely take. But his art is so like crazy detailed. And one of my favorite things about the alien science fiction horror of it taking place in space is like the pure like claustrophobia that you feel, even though you're like in the vast array of space, but like you're stuck on a ship. So there's like this claustrophobic feeling. That's like kind of a bit of horror in itself. Not to mention you have these giant aliens trying to attack you. Sorry, I'm trying to show an image that's like not too gruesome or spoilery. Here's a great 2-page splash. So like his artwork being so insanely detailed, sorry for the glare, kind of adds to that claustrophobia of the Aliens comics. And I would say that kind of ranges the same too for the original series, which I'll show it to you. Heck, why not? You just happen to ask me about some of my favorite comics, so I always get excited to show these off. Anytime I have an excuse to show it off. So this is gonna be in black and white what I show you, because this is like the original Dark Horse library editions. And this is how it was originally printed in the comics back when they first came out from Dark Horse. But they were then recolored after that when they reprinted them in trade paperbacks and whatnot. And Marvel, when they reprinted them in the Omnibus and Epic Collection, they used the colored versions. But still, the artwork is just as insane. I mean, and this artwork is by, is it Mark A. Nelson? I think it's on art. Sorry, I just want to credit the artist. Yeah, and Mark Verheiden is the writer. And these first stories actually take place right after that first movie. Here's a good chest burster scene. So it's interesting because this, and there's a xenomorph. So these first comics because Dark Horse picked up the license like right away when that first movie came out. And before Alien, so after Alien came out, they did this comic book series before Aliens came out. So the second movie. So this actually takes place after the first Alien movie. So it's that book, and then this is another Dark Horse Library edition, but both of those books that I just showed you, the black one and this blue one, those comics are in that first omnibus of Marvel. And this is all in color as it was originally. And it's got like awesome painted artwork in it. Let's show off a couple more. Sam Keith did some of the artwork at the end. I love this too, where they have like a TV screen. So you're seeing like the xenomorph on a TV screen. And they even made it look like it's like digitized like an old crappy TV. Here's the guy's. All right, that's the most gruesome I'm going to get. I'm going to close on that one. It's like that brain's popping out of a skull. I love Aliens comics though, so absolutely. Let me catch up here. Still live? Okay, thank you. The Aliens omnibuses are cool and worth it if you're a fan of the universe. I agree. So if you're a fan of Aliens movies at all, I highly recommend them. Or if you just want horror comics. Oh, damn, thanks, guys. I guess my wallet knows what to do now. Aliens comics incoming. Yes, I love it. You can show gruesome. I can handle it. I've experienced Crust. That's a series I haven't read, but I do want to read it, especially the David Lapham stuff. I mean, there's so many creators on that series that I enjoy, like David Lapham, Alan Moore, Garth Ennis, obviously, and then even Max Bemis of Say Anything fame. Stocco for the win. Yes, I love James Stocco. He's one of my favorite artists going today. I really enjoyed the original Dark Horse Aliens vs. Predator. I have that too, that library edition. It's a fun story. On my YouTube channel, my personal one, Taylor Talks Comics, I did a video showing off those library editions. And it was the week that the Aliens vs. Predator one came out. So I was like showing them off, like, look at these great books. Everyone should buy these. And then I was going to show off that in a later video. The day I uploaded that video was the day that Marvel announced they're taking over the license. So in that video, I'm like, I love these library editions. I'm so stoked that Dark Horse is releasing them. I hope that they just keep pumping them out even more. And then it was like that day that Marvel took over the license. And I haven't gone down the rabbit hole of picking up those omnibuses, but I probably need to, because I only have, as far as Aliens content goes, I'm missing a lot of what would be in volumes 2 and 3, those omnibuses, I think. So I need to pick them up. I just haven't yet. And I haven't thought about, maybe I go Epic Collections. I don't know. I think it's kind of heartbreaking to find out that Marvel picked them up, honestly, but the artwork is sick. Yeah, it's there. That's the thing too, is the artwork is just amazing. There's even a series that Mike Mignola does the artwork for, and Dave Gibbons does the writing for it. What's that one called? I forget what that series is called. Mignola Aliens. Gonna come up right away. Alien Salvation, where Mike Mignola of like Hellboy fame does the artwork. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, there's a lot of great artists and writers that have dabbled in Aliens comics. Even Jim Woodring, who Jim Woodring does, he's most famous for his Frank comics. I don't know if I have one on hand that I can reach. But his Frank comics are like these, they're like trippy silent comics that have like a OG Disney animated style to them. But even he's written Aliens comics, and his Alien comic series was one of the best there is. So there's so many great, interesting creators that have dabbled in the Alien series as well. So if you go through and buy all those omnibuses, you'll find a lot of great creators that you maybe never heard of, and then creators that you have heard of they didn't even realize did Aliens comics. So yes, thank you for making me talk about Aliens comics. I'll talk about those any day of the week. Okay, so back to Murky World. First of the Richard Corbin releases, it's going to be lovingly restored and colorized to match the original colors that Richard Corbin did. Richard Corbin was really, really hands-on with the coloring of his comics. whether he did them himself or he worked closely with the colorist to make sure that they matched the way they wanted them to be. So this book here is $27.99. It's 30% off if you shop with CGN. Up next, we have the first of the modern Epic collections. So I've talked a lot about Marvel Epic collections on this channel, especially if you go to my haul videos, which are not on the live tab, just the normal tab. We have 2 videos on this channel, and they're both me doing hauls. I talk a lot about the Epic collections and why I love them. So now we're getting modern era Epic collections, and they're going to have the same trade dress on the spines as the other Epic collections, so they're going to look really nice on your shelf with your other Epics. It does say in really small font like modern era, so it looks a little bit different, but just enough that you can distinguish the two. So I think I talked about this on the pre-order catalog video too. I think it looks like, I don't have any sort of confirmation on this, but it looks like Marvel is slowly getting into only having Epic collections as far as their thick trade paperbacks go. So they're still going to do like their slim trades that they do for all their series, like every few issues or every like 5 or 6 issues they'll release like those slim trades. But as far as like thick trade paperbacks go, it looks like they've completely done away with complete collections and ultimate collections, and they're only doing the Epic collections for like the Silver Bronze Age stuff and modern era Epic collections for the modern stuff. I think they're going to slowly transition toward like those are the only ones. At least it looks like that to me. And the first one we're getting is Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider. And this collects, looks like a Spider-Gwen's first appearance in Edge of the Spider-Verse, as well as all of her first series. So there's 1 through 5, 1 through 8. I think there's some renumbering there. And these are all about like 400 or 500 pages too. These Epic collections. So you get that for $26.99 if you shop with CGN on Monday. Studio Ghibli, Complete Works. This is put out by Kodansha, and this is an art book. It looks like. Let me see. Dive into the full color history. In-depth looks at all of their 26 feature films. So if you're a huge Studio Ghibli fan and a fan of Miyazaki, then you'll want to pick this up. It's gonna be a cool art book, and this is the kind of art book that I like. These are kind of like coffee table books that have behind the scenes stuff, but as well as like the original art. So I'm curious to see what this looks like in hand. But if you're a huge Studio Ghibli fan, you can get this for $25.19 if you shop with CGN on Monday. This is another big one for me. Twilight Man, Rod Serling, and the Birth of Television hardcover by Humanoids. The writing and art is by Corin Shadmi. I'm a huge fan of the Twilight Zone and Rod Serling, and just like the history of Rod Serling and here listening to interviews. So this is a biography of him. And this previously came out back from Humanoids, I believe. And now they're releasing their hardcover. I don't know if the trade dress and everything looks exactly the same. This is what the picture you're seeing here is what the trade paperback looked like. But this, and it is oversized, like the trade paperback was at least. I'm pretty sure this will be as well. I don't think it includes any new content. I think it's just a hardcover version of it. But I haven't read it yet, and that's a book that I always have my eye on, especially when I'm at my comic book shop, because they have a copy and I always stare at it. I'm wanting to read this because I love Rod Serling so much. So the fact that they're releasing a hardcover might make me finally jump on it. But this will be $23.99, and it'll be out next Monday. All right, we have some more questions. Okay, hold on. Oh, wait, I said that one. I think out of all the books, the Department of Truth is what I'm most excited for. Yeah, that's definitely on my list. There's a lot. Like I said, this is a great week. There's a lot of books that are on my list for books I'm excited for next week. It was kind of hard to write the newsletter, but like in the best way for the week. Is Humanoids a good publisher? Yes, I absolutely love them. I've showed these off on previous videos too. Some of the series that if you're wanting to dabble in Humanoids, because Humanoids is like they're the I don't know if I had this information 100%, but I think they're the American publisher of European comics. They definitely publish European comics, but I think they're just like the American publisher of them. I don't know if they carry the name. Like, I don't know if the company that has the rights to print them in Europe is Humanoids. I don't know that exactly, but they do print European comics. And if you're wanting to dabble in Humanoids, then I would recommend the Incal. Why don't I stop? I'll show some off actually. You guys with the great questions today. Aliens, comics, and Humanoids. there aren't many topics I love talking about more than those two. So I'm going to show off 2 of these books for you because I have a ton. But I don't want to take up so much time here. So the 2 series I would recommend if you want to dabble in Humanoids would be the Incal and Metabarons. So the Incal, they're both written by Alejandro Jodorowsky. And the Incal, and I can check to see if these are in stock too if you want me to. Oh, I just lost my screen. Okay. Was the first of the Jodoverse. So Jodorowsky wrote a ton of sci-fi comics that all kind of intersect in certain ways. And the Incal was the first of them. I'm trying to find some really cool artwork here. But Mobius, the French artist, did the artwork on this, and he is like one of the all-time great comic book artists. He was like so influential for so many artists. But he's French, and he has, if you've ever read like Tintin comics too, like Hergé, they both have like that kind of, they call it I think it's like clair ligne style, but it means clean line style to it. So it's like super detailed in some spaces, but there's no wasted pen marks. There's no like extra cross hatching that's unnecessary or whatnot. Like it's all on the page. And then there's like these super detailed scenes with like hundreds of people in them that all still maintain like good anatomy to them. But the story of the Incal, oh boy, where do I start? Okay, so the Jodorowsky was originally going to adapt Dune, like the book Dune by Frank Herbert. Is that right? I don't know the writer name. He was gonna be the first person to adapt it to a movie, and it was gonna be this crazy project. Like, there's a whole documentary on the making of Jodorowsky's Dune, which I highly recommend watching. The documentary is great. It never got made. The movie didn't. But what did happen though was that Jodorowsky was working with all these artists, one of them being Mobius, to do storyboards, and then a lot of the concept art was by H.R. Geiger, who famously like designed like a lot of the Aliens, the aforementioned Aliens comics, like the designs for those characters, like the Xenomorph and whatnot. H.R. Geiger designed those. So he had those guys working on it. He had Pink Floyd doing the film score. He had like Salvador Dali was a character in his version of Dune, and but it never got made because it was just such an outrageously expensive project. But there's like this Dune book that he put together that's like this thick, never been released or anything. I wish it would. That's like my most wanted book ever. That had a bunch of storyboards and concept art from H.R. Geiger and Mobius and whatnot. But anyway, so that movie never got made. So what did happen was that he kind of flooded a lot of those ideas into comic books, and one of them was in the Incal. And this went on to be influential to lots of big movies like sorry, The Fifth Element was one of the movies that people say kind of like borrowed a lot of ideas from this and whatnot. But it's a giant space opera, and one of the characters in it, I just found a page with him on it, is the Metabaron. That's that character in the middle there is the Metabaron. He was like one of the characters as a part of the gang, because it's kind of like a space opera in the sense of like Star Wars or Guardians of the Galaxy, where you have like a ragtag team of misfits kind of banding together to save the world, if you will. And one of those characters was the Metabarons, or the Metabaron. And then this book came out, and it's like a thick space opera book too. So like I said, the Jodoverse is very expansive. The 2 places I would recommend starting is either the Metabarons or the Incal. But this is more focused in on the Metabarons characters. And this artwork is by Juan Jimenez, who's just like amazing. Like with this painted art style. It's absolutely incredible and totally different than Mobius. But Jodorowsky only works with like the best artists. It's just absolutely incredible. And Humanoids right now is releasing they're doing like a line of. Sorry, I just found a really cool image. I wanted to. Oh, look like that giant space mech suit. There it is. That's the back of the book. They're doing a Jodorowsky library where they're releasing they have volumes of just all a bunch of his stories and stuff. So definitely recommend those two if you're wanting to dabble in humanoids. Either the Incal or Metabarons would be my final answer on that. Do you know if Max sends email notifications about shipments that are special order? The Image Comics Hall I have are special orders, so I think it. Oh, wait a few weeks, right? Yeah, so special order books. If you ever order a book that's a special order, what that means is because we only have so much warehouse space, we can't hold everything. So special order just means that Max has to order that from the distributor, and then once it comes into Max, then he ships it out to you. And nothing will be on there that's not in stock with the distributor. So it's not like it's not a guessing game. Some other websites might have like a situation where they send you an email and say like, "Oh, sorry that we don't actually have the book available. We're going to have to refund you," or something like that. I don't know that that's happened a lot with CGN because Max is pretty good about staying on top of it and making sure the distributor actually has it in stock. But yeah, special order just means that he has to order it from the distributor, and when it comes into CGN, then he ships it to you. So yeah, it'll take a little bit longer. We don't have an exact timeline or time frame on how long it'll take, but yeah, expect a week or two at least longer than usual for special orders. I picked up the Incal before the Incal, final Incal, Metabarons second cycle, Techno Priest, and Megaplex. All have not been read, but I wanted to get them before they became hard to find. Yeah, the good thing is they keep the standard size hardcovers of those. Well, at least the Incal and Metabarons, they keep those in stock. Those are pretty evergreen. But the ones that you really have to look forward to is like the slipcase deluxe editions. This one, Incal slipcase. These go out of print pretty fast, and they don't always reprint them. Now, this was just reprinted recently, and I don't think we have it in stock currently. But I will say that this is the second time they released this version of this book. The first one had a different slipcase. It had like a giant image of like a giant face on the back. That version was like limited to like 1,000 copies or some number. It was a limited edition. This one doesn't have a limited number on it. So I feel like they're going to reprint this again. And that's why they changed the way it looks and stuff, is so they can maybe make this a little bit more evergreen. But if you're wanting the slipcase, again, put it on your wish list on Cheap Graphic Novels. But don't let that hold you back from reading it too, because it's truly. I think the Incal is probably one of my like top 10 greatest comics of all time. Just the artwork and the scope of the story and whatnot. So don't let it hold you back from reading it. I would definitely recommend reading it. If you're somebody, I know King Judge, you said you bought it already, but if you're someone on here like wanting to try it out, like that standard size hardcover, let me just check real quick if we have it in stock while we're on the air. Okay, well, that didn't work. Hide out of stock items. Oh, we have the black and white edition hardcover in stock. And that's like oversized. That's $74.99. The Incal trade paperback, we have that in stock. Okay, so it looks like that's the one we have in stock. I'll share that on my screen here. I'm just okay, let's share screen. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so this is the trade paperback. This is, I don't think this is like oversized. I think it's just they were sorry, they were released in European albums too. So like their comic book size isn't the exact same as like American comic book size, but I think it's around standard sized if I remember correctly. But this is $22.49. You can get this for right now through CGN. And if you haven't read the Encounter, you're just wanting to try it out and see if you like the style, because European comics do have a different style to their writing and whatnot in their story pacing. So it is a little bit to get into. It's not like it's a little. It can be jarring if you're going in expecting it to be like a superhero comic from like the Western, side of things, or North America, I guess. But so yeah, maybe to try it out for $22.49, and then if you liked it a lot, which I imagine you will, try out the slipcase, or try to put out that on your wish list and whatnot. Cool, thanks. You're welcome. Definitely will be reading it, but I have a few days before it. I will indulge in the universe because I like to read them all back to back. Yeah, and it's intense, like because again, there's such a wide scope of ideas. Like there's so high concept of ideas that I almost always need like a breather in between reading them, because like if I read one book and then I have to read something else that's maybe more lighthearted or funny or something like that, to kind of a palate cleanser before I dive more into it. Because and one thing that is enjoyable about it is that the art changes between like Incal and Metabarons, like I showed you the examples. Like there's very different art styles, but they're amazing art regardless. So yeah, let me know how that goes, King Judge, if you hop on here again, if you start reading it. Wouldn't know where to start with all the Joe Jaworski stuff. Looks awesome though. Well, like I said, either the Incal or Metabarons will be where I'd recommend starting. One of those two books. Let me see if we have Metabarons. Metabarons. Out of stock items. Oh, there we go. Metabarons hardcover, $44.96, and that's a chunky one. That's like I think it's like 400 or 500 pages for that book. Let me see if there's a page number on here. Oh yeah, it's over 500 pages, like 530 pages for $44.96. So either that or the Incal for $22. I'd start one of those places. You can see these are other options we have in stock right now. Second Cycle, that's the sequel to Metabarons. Yeah, so Metabarons or the Incal is where I would start. One. Okay. Back to what we're talking about. So that's Twilight Man. Next up is Shazam, the Monster Society of Evil for $23.99. This I think this is deluxe edition. It doesn't say deluxe edition. It might be oversized. Let me see. It includes Shazam, the Monster Society 1 through 4. But I do know this is Jeff Smith, the guy that wrote and drew Bone, and he's doing kind of a take on the classic Captain Marvel, Monster Society of Evil storyline that Otto Binder did with CC Beck. So back in the Golden Age, they did like that. Back then, it was risky to do any sort of story that carried over multiple issues, because of the way the newsstand was designed. You wouldn't always be guaranteed a chance to be able to pick up issue 1 and then go the next month pick up issue 2. Like the newsstand was kind of haphazard, so you didn't know if you're going to pick up every issue. But Otto Binder and CC Beck did this like 25 issue story with Captain Marvel, who then became Shazam. Back then, and it was this like amazing and groundbreaking, and I love that story. Unfortunately, DC, I don't know if they'll ever reprint it. They've talked about reprinting it a few times. They've solicited it, but they've taken it off. And there are some like problematic things in that with like racial depictions and whatnot. But I don't know that they shouldn't. They should just put a disclaimer in front of it and maybe reprint it anyways. A lot of those older stories carry those disclaimers. I don't think it should be edited or anything. But what I was trying to say is this is like a new modernization of kind of the similar story. And this one's done by Jeff Smith. He writes and draws it. And so if you learn a little bit more about the Shazam character, maybe try this one out. It'll be $23.99 if you order. Oh, I didn't even click on it. Sorry. If you order through CGN next Monday. I clicked next tab. Let me see if it shows up on my screen there. There we go. So you can see the cover there. And I have seen different cover artwork for that book too, by the way. So that might not be the cover artwork, the final cover artwork. A lot of these the cover artwork that we have on our website is like the placeholder art that they the publishers will release first, but they maybe not always update it, so we don't always have the most up-to-date cover art. This one is Blood of the Virgin. This is a huge book that I'm excited about. This might be like the indie book of the year to buy. If Cycle Cleveland was in the chat, I know he's talked to me about this book in this very chat on CGN before. But this is by Sammy Harcum, and this is being published by Pantheon Books. This was originally published in Sammy Harcum's. Dang it, I always forget the name of it. Sammy Harcum has like a one-man anthology. Crickets, that's what it's called. That he does called Crickets. It's self-published, and in that, the strip called Blood of the Virgin has been like serialized throughout Crickets. They're compiling it together into this hardcover and releasing it. And I can already tell like the buzz that this book's getting before it comes. The buzz I was getting when I was in Crickets back in the day, it was one thing, but now it's getting compiled into this hardcover, and there's already a lot of buzz in the more independent comic book fandoms, I guess, about how big this release is. So I'm really excited about it. So if you're into indie comics and you want to get like on the forefront of trying out one of the bigger titles that's coming out this year, maybe pick this up. You can get it for $22.49, which is 25% off the cover price next week. The Art of Ariel Olivetti hardcover. This is by Fair Square Comics LLC, and it has a lot of the Ariel Olivetti artwork in it. So, released from all new, all different label Alien Books. Oh, so it must be an imprint of that called Aliens. But it has a lot of his work from Dark Horse, Marvel, DC, Boom. Lists characters such as Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Venom, Cable, Space Ghost, and more. So if you're into art books and you like Ariel Olivetti, there's some a cool book for you to get. That'll be $22.49 next Monday. We have Dark Web trade paperback from Marvel Comics. This is the Zeb Wells Spider-Man crossover series or big event series with Adam Kubert and Ed McGuinness on artwork. And it includes, it looks like be a thicker trade paperback. It includes like 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it looks like about 12 issues will be collected in here of the Dark Web story, which Zeb Wells is the current writer for Spider-Man. So this is like one of the big events happening. So if you're wanting to catch up on current day Spider-Man comics, you might want to pick this up. This will be $20.99 on Monday evening. Okay. I noticed on the CGN website, I can't pre-order multiple books. I can only do one at a time. Will that ever change or be added feature in the future? Let me write that down. That's a good question. I will ask Max. Can you multiple? I think sorry. I just want to put that in my notes so I don't forget to ask him. I think the only thing holding back on that option is that there's some websites that do that, but they don't the books until like the last book on the order comes in stock. So the issue there is if you say you like put like 4 Oh, you can't see me. There we go. Okay, I'm back. No, I know I cut out. I was trying to switch over to my other Wi-Fi. Oh yeah, so the issue is if you order like 4 books and let's say that 4th book gets pushed back on the release date, like even months back, like 2 or 3 months, then those first 3 books won't send until that last book comes out. That's how some websites do it. So it kind of sucks if you're waiting on those books. You're like waiting for that last one to come in stock before you can get any of them. I think that's why Max avoids it. But let me ask him, or if there's any way around that. I'll text him later and I'll ask him, and then join me in a future live. I'll be here again next Thursday if you want to. I'll try to answer that question. Remind me about the question, and I'll try to let you know. if that makes any sense. But I think that's why he avoids it, is for that reason. Resident Alien, sorry, not Resident Evil. Resident Alien Omnibus Volume 2. So this had been previously released. This is Dark Horse. Previously released in omnibus format. These are paperback. Paperback omnibuses from Dark Horse. So they're standard size and they're paperback. They're not like, don't think of like your DC Marvel omnibuses. But they're reprinting them in this new format because of the website that sorry, I got in the text. But they're reprinting them because that new sci-fi TV series came out, which I haven't watched, but I am curious about it. Let me know if you've watched that and you enjoy it. But yeah, Resident Alien Volume 2. Then we have Hawk the Slayer Wart for Me and Night. I don't know how to pronounce that, but this is a sequel to the fantasy movie. But so this is being printed by Rebellion 2000 AD, written by Garth Ennis, artwork by Henry Flint. So there's a fantasy movie called Hawk the Slayer, and this is a sequel to that movie. It's a sword and sorcery epic. This will be $19.20. Magic the Gathering Volume 4 hardcover. These are Magic the Gathering comic books. This will be $18.74. Superman Space Age hardcover, $17.99. This is another book I wanted to show off. So this is going to be a standard size hardcover. I wish that it was oversized. But I bought the first issue of this a long time ago. And they released these issues. They weren't like it says it collects just issues 1 through 3, but they're thicker issues. Like they were like perfect bound. They even had a spine on them. But this is a series by Mike Allred, who I think is like the best artist in comics right now. And Mark Russell on the writing. Like even the back cover artwork is cool. And then the front cover of this first issue is the same one that you saw on the solicit there. But this is Superman in the 60s. Like the story takes place in the 60s. And it feel like I read this first issue. And again, it's one of those things where I read the first issue. I was like, okay, that's all I need to read. I'll wait till the collection comes out. Because I'm usually a trade waiter, as they call us types of comic book fans that don't buy single issues all the time. But it read to me a lot like kind of Mark Russell's own version of, if you've read, what's it called? New Frontier by Darwin Cook. It's kind of like Mark Russell's take on that, because it's like Superman in the Silver Age and how that affected the DC universe and kind of thing. And Mark Russell takes his own liberties with the story and whatnot. Like here's even the Batmobile by Mike Allred there. But you get like some Cold War era like politics involved too, like the scare of like bombing other countries and whatnot. But just incredible artwork by Mike Allred. There's a great explosion scene. Like I said, I think he's one of the best or the best artist in comics today. And then Mark Russell, he's written a lot of like thought-provoking comic books that I've enjoyed, like the Flintstones comic book he wrote that everybody loved from DC. And then he did a Fantastic Four live story last year. And I should mention too, Laura Allred, Mike Allred's wife, does all the coloring, and she's an incredible colorist. But I just want to show that off real quick. So that'll be available next Monday in the standard size hardcover for $17.99, 40% off. We have Spider-Man Life Story Extra trade paperback. So this has been released as a trade paperback. Let me click on here. That only included issues 1 through 6, and then it was released as an oversized hardcover that included issues 1 through 6 plus the annual. Like the Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley later did an annual like tied into the story as well. This will be the first time as a trade paperback that it includes the annual. So they're re-releasing this, if you will, as all 6 issues plus the annual. This will be $17.99. Creepy Archives. This one I'm super stoked about as well. I love EC Comics. I've talked about that a number of times on this channel. But Creepy and Eerie magazine were from Warren Publishing. And if you're not familiar, so EC Comics was like their horror comics specifically were shown in front of the U.S. Senate for warping kids' brains and stuff. So they eventually were like went defunct. The whole comic book company and a number of other comic book companies, and then eventually the Comics Code Authority came about because of that. So basically, they were censoring comic books back then. The way a lot of companies got around that was by going to the magazine stand. So for whatever reason, if you release these things as magazines, you can bypass the Comics Code Authority, and you can have things like gruesome horror comics and like nudity and those kinds of things that you were banned from showing in comic books on the racks for kids. So in the 60s and 70s, Warren Publishing they came out with like the first thing was like the Famous Monsters of Filmland was a magazine that was like behind the scenes of monster movies. And then they started doing comics. And it started with Creepy, and then they later did Eerie, and then later did Vampirella. So Dark Horse has printed out off the archives of all of those in hardcover. Now they're going, and a lot of those are out of print, so I've missed out on a lot of them. But now they're printing them off in these magazine-sized trade paperbacks. So these are like oversized trade paperbacks, and such a great deal. For $17.49, you get the first 5 issues of Creepy, and each issue was like 48 pages, I think. So this is like, what is that, like 200 pages in this magazine-sized trade paperback for only $17.49. And they're pumping this out too. Originally, it looked like it's going to be like every month. It's going to be one Creepy Archives trade paperback. The next month will be Eerie, and the Creepy, then Eerie, and they do one a month. It looks like some of them have gotten pushed back a little bit, but they do seem to be pumping this out as fast as they are with their EC Archives paperbacks that they're doing. But this is one I'm super stoked about to pick up. Is the Creepy Archives, and again, that says $17.49 for 200 pages of awesome artwork. It's in black and white, but they're awesome horror comics. You have artists like Archie Goodwin, Frank Frazetta, Al Williamson, Reed Crandall, Alex Toth. I mean, those are some of like the greatest artists ever in comics. We have a comment here. Your best friend in the whole wide world is here, Taylor. Thank you, Lohit. Thank you for joining me. 3 Ghosts of Tesla hardcover from Titan Comics, written by Richard Maranzano, and the artist is Gilhim, it looks like. This looks cool. The untold story of Nikola Tesla's final adventures. It won the 2018 Special Double Grand Oris Award for Best Writing and Best Drawing at the Ondine Convention in Belgium. Science Meets Supernatural, an award-winning cartoonist Richard Maranzano's graphic novel, when eccentricities of infamous engineer and inventor Nikola Tesla are warped into a terrifying mystery during World War II. That cover looks awesome, and I've never even heard of this. But Titan has been pumping out a lot of great books. I might have to pick this up. It's a hardcover too. I'm gonna look into that. It's $17.47. It looks up my alley, though. I love classic sci-fi like that. We have Justice League Volume 3, Leagues of Chaos hardcover. This is a standard size hardcover for $14.99, and this is the Brian Michael Bendis era of the Justice League. Like the recent modern era. It includes Justice League 72 through 74, plus the annual, number 1. Then we have Gull Yetin, graphic novel from New York Review Comics. Joe Kessler on writing and art. I've never even heard of this, but it looks up my alley. Looks like an indie. Well, it is an indie comic because New York Review Comics, they don't put out a lot of stuff, but when they do, they really put their heart and soul into it. But the life of an orphan boy is shaped by devotion of a fantastical goal. In this lovingly rendered, entirely wordless graphic novel by contemporary comics innovator, told in striking colors and loose but confident lines. That sounds awesome. I love wordless comics too. It's an interesting way to read comics, especially like I said, the aforementioned Jim Woodring stuff. Okay. Lot 13 by Steve Niles and Glenn Fabry and Dark Horse Comics. This will be $13.99. Includes issues 1 through 5 of the original DC Comics series in print for the first time by 30 Days a Night's Steve Niles and Preacher's Glenn Fabry. All right, so this was originally published by DC, I'm assuming with Vertigo, and now it's being published by Dark Horse. That's cool. Star Trek Lower Decks trade paperback. This is the animated show. This is the comic adaptation of that. This will be $13.99. Stillwater by Zdarsky and Perez. Which Perez is that? Raymond Perez and Chip Zdarsky. Stillwater, Volume 3, trade paperback. Includes issues 13 through 18 and The Escape #1. Chip Zdarsky is a writer I keep wanting to explore more of, especially his indie stuff. So I might have to look into that one. Basil and Oregano, trade paperback. This is by Dark Horse Comics. This looks to be a creator-owned graphic novel by Melissa Capriglione. Looks to be a YA graphic novel. Up-and-coming artist. Least We Can Do, trade paperback, Volume 1. This is by Image Comics. Lolanda Zanfardino is the writer, and Elisa Ramboli is the artist. Must-read comic for YA fans and adults alike. Mysterious magical powers arise from a world nearly destroyed by war. Includes the issues 1 through 6. I haven't even heard of that series. Sounds interesting, though. Huntology, trade paperback by Jeremy Hahn, doing writing and art. From creatures of the night to even more terrifying creatures of the day, Huntology is an anxiety-inducing collection of 28 short stories and vignettes for the mind of Jeremy Hahn. All right. It has a blurb by Colin Bunn, of all people. That'll be $11.89. Bloodstained Teeth, Volume 2. That'll be $11.89. Star Wars The High Republic, Phase 2, Volume 1, Balance of the Force. That's a mouthful. That'll be $10.79. Wakanda, trade paperback, $10.79. Venom by Al Ewing, Dark Web, Volume 3. So if you want the Dark Web like complete collection I showed earlier, this looks like this is the tie-ins of the Venom story. That'll be $10.79. Star Wars The Mandalorian, Volume 2, oh my gosh. The Mandalorian, Volume 2, Season 1, Part 2, trade paperback. That'd be $10.79. Dark Spaces Wildfire. This looks interesting. IDW Publishing by Scott Snyder and Hayden Sherman on art. Looks to be a one and done. Oh, it's an anthology. Okay, so it's an anthology by Scott Snyder for $10.49. Catwoman, Volume 2, Cat International, trade paperback. That'll be $10.19. Donna and Impossible Monsters, Volume 3. This is an all-ages series that I really want to get into. $9.73. $9.73. Laura and Chris Samney on artwork and Matt Wilson on... Oh, I'm sorry. Laura Samney and Chris Samney on writing. Matthew Wilson on artwork. But this is like an all-ages fantasy story that I've been wanting to read with my son. So if you've read that, let me know. Mighty Marvel Masterworks Avengers Volume 3. We have two covers here. The DM cover, which has the Kirby artwork, and then this includes issues 21 through 30 of the Avengers. And these are digest-sized trade paperbacks. Then we have this cover by Romero, which is like a modern art, but done in a classic style. It's always really cool. Mob Psycho 100, Volume 11. So if you're a fan of the manga, Mob Psycho 100 by the mangaka One, who also does One Punch Man. Volume 11 is coming out for $8.39. And then we'll finish with Archie Modern Classics Mania, $7.49. These are like these thick digest-sized trade paperbacks with a lot of the modern stories. All right, so we went a little long today. Juan dipped out on us. Got to go back to work. Great stream as always. Thank you, Juan. I appreciate it. I always love talking to you on here. If you're still with us, I appreciate you being with us. Appreciate you watching. We're getting a lot of new faces in the chat, and I love that so much. I love all the questions today, too. I had excuses to show off books that aren't just books coming out next week, and I always love that. I love talking comics, hence the name. Yeah, thank you for all the questions. If you have any more questions, we're always here live once a week on CGN Live, typically on Thursdays at the same time. I always let you know on social media ahead of time if it's changing for whatever reason. So, and I'm pretty sure next Thursday we'll be on at noon as well. But you can always catch it in afterwards too. If you go to the live tab on YouTube, you always watch it back later. We always save them on there. If you aren't able to join us at the time of being live, and you can always drop comments on those videos too. If you're watching it after the fact, I don't, I'll answer those comments as well. Thank you. See you on the next one. I appreciate that, King Judge. Thank you for joining me. But yes, follow us on social media at CheapGN on Twitter and Instagram. On Facebook, search Cheap Graphic Novels. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. Subscribe to this channel. Share it with your friends. And we're closing in on 200 subscribers. I want to hit that number relatively soon, maybe by the end of May. Let's make that our goal. End of May to hit 200 subscribers. So share this channel with your friends, all of your comic book loving friends. Let them know what we're doing over here. And I appreciate that. Again, my name is Taylor. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a great day. Or just get Taylor on speed dial. You don't even have my number, low hit. Don't lie to the people. Love you guys. See you guys later. Keep reading comics.